Ugas, I believe he's trained by Ismael Salas and Joel Casamayor. He's a 5-time Cuban national champ. He's a 2008 medalist. And he has amateur wins over Jose Pedraza, Saddam Ali and Terence Crawford. I think I'd categorize him as a come-forward counterpuncher. There's nothing really exaggerated about Ugas' style. Although consistently stalking his opponents, he's not much for leading. He usually works off his opponent's offense, counterpunching to head and body. He has very good timing. Also his relaxation in the ring allows him to pick his punches. Even when defending, he will be able to be in distance for his counter punches, using subtle defensive tactics, torso movement, lateral half steps. When he gets his fighter hurt, man, he's not the best finisher. I think that goes back to him mostly staying away from leading, He's a counter puncher in nature, although coming forward. A very patient fighter that doesn't throw for the sake of throwing, but also at times he'll have lapses in concentration and kind of get lazy with his defense. You can't hit him. He's at times a tad stationary. He's in front of you, In that case, his relaxation can work against him. Although having a decent jab that he can even throw as a counter, He'll also parry punches and throw counter punches. He'll also times throw lazy jabs, leaving himself open to get countered. He uses a tight high guard, which again he can counter punch off. He's kinda reminiscent of fighters like Winky Wright, James Toney, Mike McCallum. He can counter punch while being right in front of you. He's not using excessive movement. A very cute fighter actually, although aggressive. He's also not the most physical fighter. He will, which you might assume, just looking at him physically. He'll use inches and angles to get himself out of harm's way. He throws a jab to the body to set up his big overhand right to the head. Also, he has a mean right hook to the body. Ugas, he's, I think, vulnerable to being out-hustled, especially since he can be hit also. I haven't seen him hurt necessarily, but you can kinda mute his offense if you throw enough, I guess you have to dictate the right pace. A slower pace will favor him, and usually he's right in front of you. But like I said, not always is he throwing punches. I don't know how good he is on the back foot. If someone would apply pressure on him, if that's an option for him, go on the back foot. If someone could be physical with him, Like I said, since he's, despite his impressive physical build, not the most physical fighter. He's a punch picker who doesn't possess superior athletic gifts. I'd guess someone who can be in and out with faster foot speed could maybe trouble him. I wonder what approach he'll show up with against Sean Porter, WBC welterweight world champion. Porter, he's a lot shorter than Ugas. I'd say he's more athletic than Ugas, Generally speaking, I'd say he has a higher work rate and most likely even more dimensions in that he can box a little, which he will use to ambush and rush his opponents, make it physical. People want to talk about Porter using his head, but the same can be said about Evander Holyfield. And nobody's calling him unskilled. Holyfield talked about beating his usually taller opponents to a spot when infighting, really using his head as a range-finding tool. Porter, along with fighters like Andre Ward and, for example, a prime Brandon Rios, is one of the best clinch punchers, aka holding and hitting. While not as effective seeming, those taps and in Ward's and Porter's case, wails to the body, they will accumulate and take their toll. I'm predicting that the ref will play a factor in this fight. I think this fight has a high likelihood of illegal tactics. Will the ref allow Porter to be his usual roughhousing self? And will Ugas resort to dirty tactics if he doesn't feel protected in there, Ugas has a tendency to stray low when going to the body, and he gets a lot of face time with the refs working his fights. I'm wondering, will Ugas use his legs in this fight? Keep it long. Does he have the ability to box Porter, who was successfully beaten, outpointed by Kell Brook, who used lateral movement, check left hooks, jabs, right hand, a lot of clinching, effective clinching, stifling the inside work of Porter. And also Thurman, man, used a more mobile counter-punching style, moving and punching basically, boxer puncher style, to beat Porter, Both these fighters, top-level fighters, had success catching the shorter Porter rushing in, making Porter's aggression work against him. Ugas has a decent right uppercut. I wonder if that will come into play. Ugas looked big and in great physical condition at the weigh-in. Big compared to Porter, who's a guy, who we've seen often strip at the weigh-in, even if it's for cautionary purposes, preemptive tactics. I don't think he has ever missed weight, but you would assume that he's not a guy who has an easy time making weight, and I wouldn't be surprised if he cut muscle to make 147. He looks a lot leaner nowadays. Maybe he walks around near fighting weight. He seems like the guy that doesn't blow up. He sacrifices, to be at 147. Although as short as he is, I believe he turned pro at 168. I believe he has amateur wins over Danny Jacobs, has an amateur win over the undisputed cruiserweight kingpin, Alexander Usyk. I believe it took Porter 4 attempts to make the 147 limit after missing weight by almost 2 pounds originally. He had 2 hours to make it, after stripping, getting wiped down with towels and everything. Even cutting the dude's braids, an impromptu barbershop session. Yeah, he made the weight and we got the championship bout. Going through all that, it can't help. Especially since Ugas made weight pretty easy from what it looked like. Despite looking a lot bigger than Porter. Ugas, man, he's rehydrating, getting stronger in those 2 hours. And Porter's suffering. Or was. This will be Porter's first defense, and if we recall, after beating Devin Alexander for the IBF title all those years ago, he had the home court advantage against the challenging Kell Brook and lost the belt in his first defense in a close fight. I had him winning, 115, 113, and he was actually the guy that ushered in that lackluster belt harboring IBF title reign by the special one. The boy Ugas, doesn't have a big following, so he won't get any favors, I'd assume. And he most likely has to beat Porter convincingly. Then again, I don't think Porter is like really a fan or promoter's favorite. I'm picking Sean, if he isn't affected by the weight cut. Maybe a close UD, 7'5", 8'4" type of stuff. But if he's at all hampered, Ugas might be able to walk Porter down late, getting stronger over the duration, while Porter might be weakening and might not be working with a full gas tank, if not 100%, if at all depleted. I see Ugas coming on late, since Ugas isn't the fastest starter, usually works himself into a fight, since he's so timing reliant. Once again, going back to that lack of urgency, and it's that lack of urgency when having his opponent seemingly figured out, as well as that very paced approach, that makes me favor Porter, man. As for all his supposed faults, one thing he can't be accused for is a lack of effort. Porter decision, Ugas late stoppage. In this fight between Sean Porter and Yordenis Ugas, I predicted Sean Porter UD. I predicted Sean may be slowing down a little bit in the later rounds. Maybe that has something to do with the weight cut. I expected Sean to work a little bit more when getting on the inside. I expected him to be the physically stronger of the two. Maybe that has something to do, the lack of effort in the infighting. Maybe has something to do with a bad weight cut. Ugas, man, as good a fighter he is, I see a lot of lack of urgency. He's hesitating a lot. He doesn't really go all out. A lot of showmanship, I've seen that even before this fight, but these are moments he could actually use to work. Yeah, I think Ugas' lack of willingness to lead, really, do an effective job leading, and really never getting his timing down on his counter punches. He was working the body, that's his thing. I don't know how much he was really affecting Sean Porter, you know. Sean showed a beautiful jab in this fight, man. His boxing ability gets a little bit underappreciated, and usually his rushes and the way he will work over his opponents usually make it rough. He'll set it up with his boxing ability. He has fast feet, good movement, you know, mobility. He's a better overall athlete than Ugas. He did also a good job in the middle rounds countering the counter. More than one occasion he was hitting Ugas kinda on the exit, and all throughout he was hitting him with these shotgun jabs, man, and Ugas' mouth was telling the story, all bloodied up. You know, I don't really take my cues from Marcos Viegas, the PBC scorekeeper, also a reporter for Fight Hub, or maybe that's his thing, you know. But the guy, I don't know, why not put me in there, you know what I mean? To keep the scorecards. I say I'm as qualified. Yeah, Joe Goosen and Lennox Lewis, they were kind of disagreeing throughout the commentary. Goosen was giving credit to Ugas. It seemed more like he was giving Ugas extra credit because Sean Porter wasn't really working, or not working as hard as expected on the inside. Lennox was giving credit to Porter for his mobility and the jab, feints. A lot of what Sean does, man, those foot feints, they had Ugas holding his shots, you know what I mean? He wasn't throwing, man. He was hesitant. Yeah, man, but I said that Ugas, he has a lack of urgency in his fights. You know, he wants to be too perfect. You can hit him. It's not the most elusive, at least like with his legs, you know what I mean? He wants to be set to counterpunch, and at times he will give up shots. Yeah, man, in the 11th also, Porter, he hurt Ugas at the end of the round, after a really bad round. He hurt him with a jab. Had him doing a little dance. I gave the first 2 rounds to Porter, the 3rd to Ugas, the 4th to Porter. Round 5 I had for Ugas, round 6 for Porter, round 7 for Porter, round 8 and round 9 for Porter, round 10 for Porter. How about that? I gave him 5 rounds in a row. How about that? And these were rounds I think Viegas was scoring for Ugas. Yeah, man. Round 11, Porter was kinda gassing, I feel like, you know. He expended a lot of energy, you know, moving at times, or maybe even mental fatigue set in, because like Ugas, he's a pretty relaxed guy, you know. It's just one thing he has to do: stay in front of you, counter punch, you know what I mean? He has a relaxed style. Porter not so much, man. He's all jittery, really has to stay perfect. His size, his lack of smoothness, it kind of gets him in trouble. He has a great chin though. Ugas was hitting him with good right hands, but there were too few and far between. Porter in the 11th, man, he was gassing, man, on the run kind of, and then he stunned Ugas in the last 10 seconds or last 5 seconds. Yeah, man, I think I agree with Viegas there. Ugas got that round still though, you know. And that's why I was giving actually Porter round 6 through 10, because when Porter is moving, jabbing, feinting, you know what I mean, even counter punching, even if it wasn't like ridiculously effective, you know, Ugas, he wasn't really doing much. Just coming forward, showboating and shit, you know what I mean? Every once in a while counter punching, and then maybe in the last 10 seconds kinda extra stalking, you know, because also Sean Porter, he had a hard time like finishing the rounds on his own merit, you know what I mean? Finishing the rounds like a G. He was kinda on the run, and he was so much on the run that he was gassing in the later rounds. Look at the 12th round, I also gave it to Ugas, man. I thought maybe Porter would try something, you know, trying to explode, at least in the last 10 seconds. He didn't. He wanted to see this shit out, man. Maybe he felt he was outboxing the guy, you know? That's the thing, man. Like, fans that are used to fighters like a Terence Crawford, Floyd Mayweather, making it look smooth, you know? They're gonna underappreciate a Sean Porter if he chooses to mix it up in his tactics, not literally. He wasn't doing as much of that in this fight. Regardless, I had a 116, 112 for Porter. 8-4. I said it, man. If Porter is not too affected from the weight cut, I saw him winning a decision. 7-5, 8-4 type of deal here. And that's generous really to Ugas, you know? I appreciate Ugas' style, but at the same time, I see the shortcomings. He doesn't work as hard, man. And that's gonna work against you usually, against a guy like Sean Porter, because that's all he does. And really, even with his sticking to the game plan on the outside and all that, you know, that can also sway the judges. Sometimes it can sway the judges that a guy is coming forward, even if he's not really throwing as many punches, you know, more so applying mental pressure, I guess. But a guy that looks so active like a Sean Porter, even when he's not throwing punches, like all that stutter stepping and all that stuff, you know what I mean? Herky jerky, rushing in, getting behind his opponent, shit like that, you know? His athletic gifts, they make him seem at all times like he's doing something. And that can maybe work for him, even if he's not pretty necessarily. Yeah, 116-112, man. I see my man Sean Porter retaining his WBC welterweight world title. But there were closer rounds and times, you know, I'm not saying this is the end-all be-all, my scorecard. 6 through 10. Maybe I just got stuck in a feeling from 6 to 10. I don't know. Maybe that's too much for you, but I'm seeing Porter sweeping those rounds and really that giving him the upper hand here. Anyway, whether it's a close fight on scorecards, it's a highly competitive fight, you know. Let's see what the judges say. Let's hear it. That's funny. But that's what trainers tell their fighters, right? Put your hands up. Put your hands up. You won this fight. He finished the fight not to his liking. I think that's what he was doing, Sean Porter. Agreeing that he lost the last 2 rounds, you know what I mean? But that doesn't make you lose the fight. Oh, they're praying though. They're praying in his corner. Ugas, if he was a little more aggressive, dude, I think he'd be more effective. Wow, that's crazy. There you go. No surprise, really, you know what I mean? On Porter's face, Ugas being respectful, good sportsmanship. I think Ugas, man, he needs to, you know, get over that. I don't know if that's like a mental thing. There you go. I'm with Lennox, man. Right. All that waiting shit. I'm with Lennox. Yep. And still. Thanks for listening. Peace out.
Matisse to catch him with the counter left hand that he's been famous for. He knocked guys out with. Matisse looking to land the right hand against Manny Pacquiao.
Calves that allow for him to dart in and out, to lunge, to create power.
Yeah, Manny Pacquiao is close the distance, blink of an eye. He's the mid-distance king. And you see how he pushed back Matisse with those combinations. Still fast and still hitting hard.
Tim, you were in there opposite Manny Pacquiao 3 times in your career. How does he look physically to you? This version?
Big
Sharp,
and shape.
still look fit. Still look gripped. He's having a good round.
Matisse off balance on that exchange. He is having a good round. Just placed a left hand to the body as well.
The toughness. He just don't fight for himself. He fights for his country.
Richmond, Pacquiao's lost some quickness. He's still quicker than Matisse. He's still a little bit busier than Matisse.
Very busy here in the midst of round number 1.
Matisse is not going to win a boxing match against Manny Pacquiao. He needs to step it up, get inside.
He doesn't worry about getting to the scorecards much. He has scored 63 knockdowns altogether in his career. 11 knockdowns that drop their opponent down and out for good.
I don't think he should.
The punch that we're going to be looking for later in the fight.
Yo, Matisse can punch. That's for sure. Pacquiao can punch, but it's more like an accumulation.
The speed of Manny
type
Pacquiao.
of
Let's just talk
puncher,
about the
you know.
hand speed. He still has it, even at the age of 39 years old. Let's look at the pad. Yes, age. He's been through a lot. Batiste's being patient. There's the overhand right again. He's trying to land.
Coming around the guard with the right hand.
Yeah, in that first round. Doubles up the jab, came in with a straight right, and Batiste tries to fire back with the right of his own.
Batiste countering Pacquiao.
Batiste trying to stand his ground here.
Ooh.
There it is, checking that right hand was Pacquiao. Now the distance jab from Batiste. See if he comes with the right hand behind one of those.
But I also know that Joel Diaz knows that he doesn't have
Pacquiao working his
that
jab.
push needed to beat a guy like Manny Pacquiao. He has a powerful guy in Batiste, don't get me wrong. And he's controlling some of the action in spots. But
Trying
Manny
to set up that
Pacquiao
left hand,
is
Pacquiao.
extremely fast. Punches.
ESPN Plus. Glad you found him. 33 years old. And had a 15-round unanimous decision as the knockdown is scored here in round number 3.
Kind of a balance shot.
Pacquiao gets to Batiste.
Uppercut.
That's what he did against Marquez back in the day after they traded knockdowns.
Like Pacquiao, you gotta chin check, man. You gotta stand your ground with him.
Attack, using his jab, trying to move forward. Trying to find an opportunity for
When he commits, it comes in straight lines.
The combination.
Oh, good jab.
Batiste was down 3 years ago against Victor Postol.
He was TKO'd in the 10th round.
Yo, Pacquiao having success with his jab. Oh, right uppercut.
Trying to pin him in that corner. It's good work there at the end of the 4th round.
Yo, technically,
Look at the speed and power
Batiste
Manny
isn't
Pacquiao
the
here.
greatest
Good right hand from
fighter,
Batiste.
you know what I mean?
As Manny tried to move in, came in that mid-distance range. He threw
Like,
a
we've
straight
seen
right
dudes
hand.
outbox him, you know?
And here
Devin
you can
Alexander,
see
Zab Judah,
Pacquiao
Victor
land his
Postol,
straight
Danny
left hand
Garcia.
there.
He can be
Getting off the
outboxed.
line and landing that straight left hand. Hand down the middle.
And I don't want to call Batiste necessarily chilly, but he's vulnerable as far as getting hurt, you know what I mean? Maybe it's more physical pain that he's actually feeling, more than concussive. It's weird, man. Because Batiste, in the fight in that he was hurting, you know,
Nice left hook right there from
he was
Batiste.
able to, like, with basically inside work, with pressure, he was able to start John Molina.
From Pacquiao, Batiste gets off his best combination following it.
I don't know what my point is, man. John Molina is no Pacquiao,
Batiste's
but
still dangerous.
Then a counter right.
I want to see that Batiste, you know what I
In
mean?
this round.
Trying to get on the... Oh my goodness, this guy.
That got to him.
This guy, man.
He takes a knee.
What happened?
Pacquiao lands.
What happened?
Second knockdown of the night scored by Pacquiao. What a
What
turn.
the fuck?
You said Pacquiao was getting relaxed. Batiste was finding a little bit of groove. And just like that, it happens again.
Batiste discouraged the speed and the power of Manny Pacquiao. It's frustrating him. He got clipped with a little shot on the temple and he went down and took a knee.
As I said before, that's the price of patience. While he's waiting for his shot, he's taking those blows, and no one except for Lucas Batiste knows how much pain that's inflicting. Turns out it was a lot.
Here it is. Here's Manny Pacquiao stocking with that jab. Comes around with a little short hook.
Ugh,
Clips Batiste, looks like on the temple possibly.
I don't
It
know,
doesn't
man.
take much when you get hit there, right? Tim?
Yo,
It
Batiste,
doesn't take much, but you see
I don't want to call him
hesitation
weak or whatever,
from
but
Batiste.
there is a little bit
Got
of
clipped on the
mental,
temple. He should take a knee.
I
I'm
don't
kind of
know.
confused. It wasn't
He has
a
issues,
shot that really hurt
you know?
him. But I think it's just frustration and getting hit over and
Yeah,
over
yeah.
and over and over again.
I don't want to call him a quitter, but
Stop
he might-
standing in front.
he
You're
might
right
quit
in front of Pacquiao. He
in the
wants
next
movement.
couple of rounds.
He's not getting it.
Yeah,
Round
give it a
number
go,
6.
man.
Batiste's been down twice. To work and does so with a combination. And there's that left uppercut again with that sneaky angle from Pac-Man.
You know what we're seeing, fellas, right? Vintage Pacquiao.
Shut up!
The late rebirth of Pacquiao, if it keeps up like this.
Matisse ain't fighting.
Undoubtedly will be headlining.
He's not throwing anything, man.
If a W comes his way against another big name.
And right now, all the other big names, everyone we
Look at him, he's totally out of range.
154 pounds, they all want one guy.
He pays the bills.
Well, maybe they'll want him a little bit less.
And it's not like Pacquiao is a whirlwind as far as mobility goes right now, you know? Pretty much in front of him, little side steps.
Don't be surprised if Matisse don't come out in one of these rounds.
Hey, listen. The power's in there.
Yo, Matisse.
The frustration, the speed of Manny Pacquiao is giving him problems.
Gotta throw.
Pacquiao again scoring with that left hand. Halfway
What's
through
going on,
round
man?
number 6.
Can't shut up. Pacquiao will take advantage of that, man.
Saw nothing like this against Horn last year.
He has no
That
trouble
glimpse he
tapping
got in the ninth
on
round
your
from
gloves and
start
on
to
everything,
finish
you know, on
tonight.
your arms,
This has been a
on your
consistent
guard.
Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao who works, who darts in and out, who shows you glimpses of what he's always shown us and has scored 2 knockdowns already.
Not a bad fighter for a politician.
Pretty good, huh?
Special.
Trying to find a home for that.
Man,
And
Matisse.
it goes to the body with the right hand as Matisse fires back.
Good body work from Pac right there. Matisse every now and then slip it in the right hand on Pacquiao as he walks straight in.
Looks like Matisse is trying to survive.
With it. There's that uppercut.
Good jab from Matisse.
Man, this looks like Matisse is trying to survive.
With it. There's that uppercut again from Pacquiao as he splits the guard. Right hook, left
Man.
hand combination.
He doubles up the jab and leaves himself susceptible to the same shot that Pacquiao hit you with
Yes.
in the 9th round
Yes,
of the
he
third
does.
fight.
But Matisse comes forward again.
You're looking at a guy who's been a pro for 23 years.
I'm over this, man. So yeah, I stopped watching it because I kind of got tired of the repetitiveness of that fight, you know. Pacquiao definitely dominating Lucas Matisse, and in the 7th round, another uppercut landed for Pacquiao, and Matisse went to one knee, started rubbing his face and shit, and spit his mouthpiece out, and the ref stopped the fight. So the first knockout for Pacquiao since knocking out Miguel Cotto in 2009. What really is impressive is that Pacquiao is still performing at that level. At 39, going up all these weight classes. I mean, these low weight dudes, man, they usually don't have longevity, and Pacquiao is disproving that notion, you know what I mean? Not the first one to do it, but still, he's pretty excellent. And I wouldn't have expected that Pacquiao's style would be able to linger, you know, still be as effective. Because Matisse, I mean, I kind of called it, man. There was always like a little bit of an emotional instability. I felt like when I looked at him, I never thought of him as like this ultimately confident fighter. Maybe his extreme knockout power is what made us believe in him even more, you know what I mean? Maybe that added some luster to his hype. Back in the day, he was being called the next Pacquiao, right? Richard Schaefer was promoting him like that. I believe it was after the Lamont Peterson fight, and Richard Schaefer came into the ring and crowned the new Pacquiao. They got their own Pacquiao. That was what he was saying. At that time, he was regarded as a monster, machine and all that stuff, man, but he was a big puncher. I mean, he stopped Mike Dallas pretty viciously. Lamont Peterson he stopped, which we hadn't seen at that point, you know, from Lamont Peterson. And even now, we see Errol Spence kind of have to box and break down Lamont Peterson, you know, to get him out of there. And even then, it wasn't as concussive an effort as Lucas Matisse was able to produce against Peterson. Yeah, but there was always like that, I don't know, he could be outboxed and also he could be gotten to, you know? He's not impervious to pain or hurt. Like even when I first saw him, or when I was really like aware of the guy, you know what I mean? I might have seen like the Zab Judah, Devin Alexander fights, but they didn't necessarily stick out in my mind, you know? But when I was paying attention, when he fought Humberto Soto, even in that fight I felt like he got kind of wobbled or something happened in that fight. A little bit of adversity he was facing in that fight. He came through it, was also facing an older fighter who had moved up in weight, and even then, although Humberto Soto still will be able to give some prospects like a run for their money, even at that point I felt like he had probably seen his better days, you know, and he was stopped by Matisse, man. But look at the way he celebrates after winning. Even if it's in impressive fashion, he will cry, he will get really emotional, almost making me think that he wasn't maybe totally confident, you know. I feel like there's a confidence factor that's lacking in Matisse. He can be broken. He showed it against Postol, really showed it even in decision losses. I mean, even against Danny Garcia, you know, against John Molina, he looked so vulnerable. He looks like he questions himself. The way he also takes knees in fights and stuff like that, you know? So that was what I kind of expected. Like when I watch Matisse fight, man, there's always like that sense of something can happen because he has that power, but in the end, if his metal gets tested, he won't persevere. And even in his last fight, we kind of could see that also from a technical and from a like physical perspective, he has been regressing. If you look at him in this fight against some Asian dude, like Japanese fight or something like that. And he looked bad, man. He was getting outboxed by a guy who didn't have much tools, you know. He was able to land something, but that also looked like a dive that Japanese dude was taking. Or yeah, man, but credit to Pacquiao, he looked very good. He looked in shape and he looked in rhythm. You know, when he found his rhythm, he looked very good. Still throwing a lot of punches, still able to move on his legs, you know. Like I said, man, I didn't think that his style would translate into an older age, but it has, man. In 2018, Pacquiao is still one of the better welterweights out there. And now Pacquiao has the WBA. Is it the regular title, something like that? I don't even know. Or was that the belt that Keith Thurman just relinquished? I don't know. I gotta do my homework, I guess. But yeah, that's why I tuned out the fight. I kinda got bored with myself and with the fight, you know what I mean? Wasn't very competitive, Matisse wasn't doing much, and if people have complaints about his will to carry on or at all fight. I mean, even his tactics, man, fucking boxing, like Lucas Matisse is boxing with Pacquiao, that's not a winning remedy. But, you know what I mean? It's always easy to judge from a couch and shit, but these dudes are step in there to make a living, getting whooped, you know what I mean? And if it's not worth it, paycheck is the same. Man, I think Maidana's shadow is too big, you know? Maidana is such a killer, man. But Lucas Matisse can't live up to that. From an emotional perspective, I think like Marcos Maidana is just on another level, you know? He's a killer. I don't know if Lucas Matisse is a killer. It's a talent, Matisse, you know? Yeah, good on Pacquiao. Look good, man. Alright. Yeah, so Thurman loses split decision, man, against the 40-year-old Manny Pacquiao. This is pretty exceptional. And I was actually in the middle rounds, man, I was thinking, man, this motherfucker has to be on PEDs. You know what I mean? The work rate was crazy, especially for a 40-year-old. I scored it 115-112. Pacquiao scoring the knockdown in the first round. A round actually that I thought Keith Thurman was winning. He had a little bit of trouble adjusting early, you know what I mean? Although he had a decent round in the first round, but got caught going back in a straight line with a straight punch, you know what I mean? Pacquiao connecting and dropping Thurman rather hard. They were calling it a flash knockdown. I don't think so. That's why I scored it actually 10-8. He got up, you know what I mean? It was rather composed, but at the same time, Pacquiao didn't really have too much time left in that round, you know what I mean, to go for the finish. I also think that Pacquiao actually got buzzed right before that, before scoring that knockdown. So he kind of played it cool. Anyway, I scored it at 10-8. But to see Thurman, man, who's really a guy that, like, I call it like a stop on a dime type of fighter. And there are not many of these type of fighters, you know, out there. Who's the type of fighter at welterweight, man? It's hard actually to think about it, you know? Able to stop on a dime, use actually his mobility, stop on a dime and be able to create power, you know what I mean? Actually, Pacquiao, man, the most success he did have was not only with the straight punches, but with a straight jab, man. He was landing some beautiful jabs, like Like, Pacquiao has become a minimalist, man. He really lived off his engine when he was a younger fighter. But nowadays, man, he really picks his punches, man. And it was interesting to see, like, Keith Thurman was expending a lot of energy, not being necessarily effective, swinging wide, you know what I mean? And then Pacquiao is just taking like little half steps, feinting, and then popping a straight right jab in there, you know? That's probably the most successful, I'd say the most successful tool that Pacquiao used in this fight. Also the straight left to the liver. That shit had Thurman, like, actually Thurman had gained momentum and then he got hit with that body shot. Like the first round when he got knocked down, and then that round where he got hurt to the body. He was feeling that shit in the round after. Which one was that? Was it the 10th? I think it's around 10 and 11. I think he got hurt in round 10. Anyway, man, I gotta give it to Thurman, you know. Actually, if he didn't have that bad start, if he didn't get knocked down, I think he did find his rhythm and got to that point where he actually could employ. I feel like he was trying a different style in this fight. And to his credit, he was actually being successful at points, you know. And I feel like the body work that he was able to do in the first half, with that more flat-footed style, kind of a catch-and-shoot type of style, at times he will obviously deviate from that. Like, he went from wide punches from that style and was ineffective, like trying to catch and shoot, like walk Manny down, kind of flat-footed. He wasn't effective with that though, with the wide stuff, you know what I mean? And then he started, like, I'd say, reducing a little bit the power he was putting on these shots, man, and just like kind of punch picking, you know what I mean? But in Thurman's case, man, he's a both-handed puncher, man. So that shit will be snappy, and Pacquiao is not a natural welterweight, you know what I mean? And that shit will accumulate, and it did, man. I feel like the body work he did in the first half in the fight, even while not necessarily winning rounds, or as many rounds, I only gave round 4 to Thurman. He was putting water in the basement. Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like kind of started finding his rhythm, man, in the second half with his, like, moving power punching style, man. I always compare him to Acelino Freitas in that regard. Punchers that have the mentality of a boxer in a way, you know what I mean? A more athletic style. More Roy Jones Jr. than a pure boxer, let's say. Pacquiao's still at 40, man. He's doing the same thing he's doing back in the day, just not as effective, you know what I mean? He's not the young whirlwind anymore. But the shit that got him, like, the decisions against Marquez, man, whether he deserved them or not, it was that, you know? His ability to be able to win the big spots in the fight, or in the rounds, you know? Get a big reaction out of his opponent. Even while not effective, being able to overwhelm his opponent, make him very reactive, over defensive, you know what I mean? But also, he got a knockdown and he also hurt Keith to the body, and it was funny to see Thurman trying to play it off as a headbutt or whatever he was complaining about. But that's gamesmanship, man. That's actually a veteran tactic, you know? And he went on his bike like he does, you know? When he gets touched to that glass. His glass is his ribcage. We've seen Omar Figueroa throw his porcelain around. I was thinking, like, watching that Omar Figueroa fight against Ugas, and I predicted that Ugas was gonna stop Figueroa. Watching Figueroa, you know, he's a dude, like him and Paulie Malignaggi, they're basically the same guy. But I think one of the two chooses to fight like he fights, you know what I mean? One chooses to box, one chooses to brawl. Both have porcelain strapped to their knuckles, man. And I guess they're winning fighters, but you know what I mean? Or world level fighters. Is that a case of choice? You know what I mean? One chooses to be a bitch, one chooses to fight it out, I guess. You know what I mean? All that smothering you're seeing by Figueroa, there's a reason for that, man. He can't afford it to fight on the outside. Maybe it's more so that his technique actually doesn't allow him to box like a Paulie Malignaggi. But at the same time, who'd you rather be? Paulie Malignaggi, getting cut up, beat up regardless, if you're able to stifle, smother, spin off, you know what I mean? Check hook, little flicking jabs, that type of shit, call yourself world level and all that stuff. Or Omar Figueroa, man, catch a black eye, maybe 2 black eyes, be in wars, you know what I mean? Overwhelmed dudes, just sheer will, determination, throwing that fucking porcelain at people, you know what I mean? Trying to cut them up. I don't know. It's an individualism thing, you know? Personality thing. Anyway, man, Thurman Pac, man, Thurman shouldn't hang his hat. He did what he had to do, what he could really, you know. I thought before the fight, you know, if Pac-Man wins, does that mean that this generation's welterweights the true welterweights, that they are somehow watered down. If Mikey Garcia is able to, like a former featherweight, is able to come up to welterweight and compete against so-called boogeymen, go the distance, that's in a sense competing, especially for a featherweight, you know what I mean? We're not giving participation trophies, but this shit is a little, I don't know, if you should pat yourself on the back for that shit, you know, if you're Errol Spence. Thurman getting beat by a 40-year-old Manny Pacquiao. We call the guy legend, but the flaws are obvious, you know what I mean? They are visible. And then you see the flaws in Thurman, actually. The way he kind of looks lumbersome, treading forward, kind of slow actually, like flat-footed. He had to use his mobility to get into a punching rhythm, and he was able to use that to land some big shots on Pacquiao in the latter part, you know. But early when he was working for that moment where Pacquiao's a little bit more tired and has actually to watch his P's and Q's, you know, on the defensive side. Before that he didn't look, it wasn't pretty, you know what I mean? So is there maybe something to be said, man, about these welterweights right now? Smaller dudes, older smaller dudes able to beat the current cream of the crop? Hey listen, man, Sean Porter might be the best welterweight out there, you know? Who would have thought that shit, you know? And I can't see that even, man. His weird self, you know, winning against fucking Errol Spence, smothering the fuck out of Spence, man. You know what I mean? Taking him to a place that he hadn't been so far. He's the place taker, and he's going in against the guy that's cut from the same cloth. Actually, you hear Spence fucking calling for that shit, trying to get the dog out of Sean Porter, but Sean Porter is on this weird thing, man. And I say this shit is actually mind games, man. You hear fucking Sean Porter on commentary, man, trying to kind of baby the viewers, and at the same time kind of trying to be the alpha, explaining certain things to Lennox Lewis, how to use a jab, how to use your movement, how to do this or that, you know. Fucking telling Lennox Lewis, man, fucking Sean Porter is weird enough to be the best welterweight in the world, you know. Maybe we should give Terence Crawford credit for beating Jeff Horn. Just something out of the blue that came to my mind. I don't know why. You know, Horn beat Pacquiao. I always wanted to see that fight between Thurman and Jeff Horn. I think they are similar fighters actually. Although one is a puncher and one is a more physical fighter. But I think they are both big guys that use their mobility well. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. Like I said, man, if Thurman didn't have a bad start, I think he could have won this shit actually, you know. He gotta take care of these straight punches, man. Like, his defense are legs in a fucking high guard, you know. And at times he blinds himself for that shit. Like Pacquiao was punching through that shit, you know, sticking a jab just through that shit, you know, like a jolt, Jack Dempsey style, man. Fucking putting that fencing stab to him. I don't know. Fucking, I hate the Sean Porter and Lennox Lewis broadcast team. I actually hate the whole fucking PBC thing. When they had Skip Bayless on there, like, interviewing him, like, I thought this shit is perfect, man. It just fits, you know. This fucking Play-Doh production. Yo, I don't know why they do that, man. Like, Ray Mancini I actually like Ray Mancini, but he's a stuttering prick. And then they have Deontay Wilder on there, man. Like, get the hell out of here, bro. Like, Deontay Wilder was talking about momentum. Pacquiao needs to find his momentum or has his momentum or some shit. And then he talked about the game plan. You know, gotta have the right game plan, and Pacquiao had the game plan. Get the fuck out of here, bro. I'm fucking foreign as far as, like, to the US goes, you know. I'm not in an English-speaking country or whatever, but I'm hearing some foreign noises, man, out of this man's mouth. Just in general, man, wait, like Sean Porter, man, he just talks for the sake of talking, man. He doesn't make points, you know, he's just talking, man. He wants to be a fucking presenter on the Basketball Wives reunion show, you know. He's that type of dude. He wants to be John Sally. Gets on my nerves from Porter, man. And people, they're all on the Sean Porter commentating bandwagon, you know. He has a job in the future. Like, he's pretty smooth, actually. Like, he has a decent delivery, but if you look at the fucking substance, man, that motherfucker, oh yeah, we know the old shtick. Sean, you don't like to make predictions. Talks like hot garbage, man, for about like 10 minutes, man, when They just wanted a prediction from the motherfucker and he wouldn't give it. Like wasting time, airtime, man. That's what I'm seeing a lot, like in that PBC thing, you know? They don't discriminate, man. They don't cut shit, man. The editing room is vacant. Yeah, I've ranted enough, I think. Yeah, Lennox also, man. Lennox, yeah, man, I like to wear blue pajamas before a fight. Like, get the fuck out of here. I don't want to hear that shit anymore. Like, they don't bring any substance, man. Compare it to fucking HBO and all. Like, fucking 3 motherfuckers that don't ever have stepped into the ring could do a better job than them. Marcus Viegas, he's like doing his own, like, poetic bullshit. Little special that he got, you know what I mean? Is it just me or is anybody else like fucking tired of Marcus Viegas' rise to fucking boxing fame? You know what I mean? He's like a boxing personality now. I'm not hating, like do your thing and everything, you know what I mean? But like, why the fuck is he a boxing judge? How is he the fucking Harold Letterman? I just know him from being the weird guy on Fight Hub that looks into the camera too long, you know? Keeps staring at me for some reason, man. And getting uncomfortable, man. Maybe that's my problem, but this dude stares into the camera like he's talking to a dude, like to Eric Morales or whatever. All of a sudden, like he starts like talking into the camera and laughing. Oh yeah, one time I also went on a ride and fell from a horse. Laughing to the camera like as if I was laughing with him, you know what I mean? His fucking interview subject, man, is standing there uncomfortably looking at him, all awkward. Anyway, he had a fucking like little special, man. And he was talking about like how he always has a smile on his face when Manny Pacquiao fights. And then he gets goosebumps and cherishes every last minute that he can spend in the midst of a legend like Manny Pacquiao. Who knows how long we are gonna be able to watch this great legend fight and be around him, his great demeanor, doing like a Larry Merchant thing. And then, what did he say at the end? And then I knew I stood in the midst of legends. I stood tall amongst legends. He said that shit, man. He said, I stood tall amongst legends, man. You know, I stood tall in the midst of men. Some gay shit like that, but hey, tired of this shit, man. Hail ye, hail ye. Hail ye, Manny Pacquiao, old senator. What the fuck? Is this a generational win? Do these fucking young welterweights, are they looking on, man, all grumpy right now, you know what I mean? That's why I'm saying fucking Sean Porter is the best welterweight in the world, man. He's a throwback. At least as a fighter, he's a throwback, you know? Like Spence, man, he was like, yeah, Keith is gonna do that, Keith is gonna do that. I like Keith, Keith is my friend, but I wanna fight Keith. Keith ain't fighting me until he's retired. There is always this fucking backslapping going on between these young welterweights, you know what I mean? All came up like around the same time. Spence is a little bit like the youngster between like Porter and Keith. Porter and Keith, they see themselves like as veterans of the sport, like these just turned 30 motherfuckers, you know? They think of themselves like as already legends, you know? The great fight they had between each other. Like Sean Porter actually is like in love with Keith Thurman, if you haven't noticed. I actually think fucking Errol Spence is jealous because he's also in love with Keith Thurman, man. You know, this is some long hair, don't care problems right there, you know what I mean? And that's where you see like the animosity that Spence has with Porter right now. You would think because they're fighting, but it's not like that, you know what I mean? It's all hugs and kisses, man. That's the times we're living in, man. After the fight, we're going to the club together, you know, like Pacquiao and Floyd, you know? We're making that money, robbing the bank. Incidental legacy manifestation or whatever. Incidental legacy stamping, you know? Just because they're there, you know? Nobody's fucking boxing. You see Keith Thurman, man, stumbling all over the place before he found his rhythm. Like, that's not a good representation, bro. You see fucking Paulie Malignaggi going to BKB, making a fucking fool out of himself. The fucking armless bandit or some shit like that, man. Yeah, he also stole money, man. Do you think fucking Henry Armstrong would fucking lose to fucking Artem Lobov in a fucking BKB fight? Get the fuck out of here, man. Put Omar Figueroa in there, man. It's about choices. You think Henry Armstrong, man, would fucking say to Manny Pacquiao, like, Manny Pacquiao 40 years old, motherfucker, what? I'm in my prime, bruh. What you got? What, eight weight divisions? Okay, I got you. Trinket belts and all. Get the fuck out of here. I know Henry Armstrong isn't going down without a fight, you know what I mean? He's not just competing, he's trying to win. I stepped in there with a legend and all that good shit, you know? Anyway, Terence Crawford, he feels safe on his side. Talk to my promoter, I don't do the talking. Yeah, alright. You know, when Pernell Whitaker passed, I was saddened and surprised, obviously, but probably not as much as I should have been, because Pernell was that type of dude. When they asked him, do you want the rematch with Chavez, do you think you got robbed? He said, I'm not looking for that rematch, but the people will demand a rematch, and if the people will demand a rematch will happen. But he's not chasing, and the people, in his mind, knew who won, so he's not worried about it. It was a draw. And I think that's how Pernell looked at all his losses. Even if he didn't think there were losses, he wasn't a complainer. He wouldn't complain about it, you know? And he wasn't also actively campaigning for these type of fights. Eventually he got them when he was out of his prime. He was thrown to the wolves at that point, still, you know, representing, because he is sweepy. But he probably didn't end up as rich or as influential or as present in our minds as he should have been. 55, that's not old. The man got hit by a car. You think Floyd Mayweather Jr. would get hit by a car? Don't you think one of these Jews-head Guidos would have like take those tires instead? Like, just take the hit. Why is he in the position to get hit by a car? You see Evander Holyfield going to the gym. He seems to be walking, talking on his own, you know what I mean? He doesn't need bodyguards. Who knows about his financial situation, but he seems to be comfortable. I don't say like that happened because he's not Floyd, you know what I mean? But I think if you're Floyd, that's not gonna happen, but you're also gonna exchange that type of freedom for that type of security, you know? Pernell should have been a lot bigger. A lot more people should know him. There should have been a big fuss about this, man, because this is way too soon, you know? He was taken as if it was just another fighter, and that he wasn't, you know what I mean? Thurman and all these other fighters, you know, these prime fighters, I think they won't take that so easily. Yeah, that's what I was actually comparing it to the Terence Crawford situation, right? Yeah, man, he won't call out for that shit. And Pacquiao was never that type of dude, but at the same time, he got those fights. He was challenging himself, and he had a lot of work in front of him, you know, so that work that Terence Crawford is looking at, man, it's a living, you know. It shouldn't excite anybody. It shouldn't excite him, nor should it excite the fans. If it's just another fight, how can we get excited? If it's just another fight for you, how can we get excited, you know? We see Terence Crawford making a big fuss about fighting anybody he fights, you know? Like, how are you angry at Jeff Horn? Getting all angry at this guy Benavidez, but he gets angry at everybody. Jerry Jean, Hank Lundy, you know what I mean? Making yourself look like a bully. Trying to be all sinister to Amir Khan. You know, these welterweights right now, man. So Manny Pacquiao, man. Like, why are you fighting? Why are you fighting? Like, even these dumb welterweights, they would like him to retire. You know, it's like a comedian, you know, going to stand-up gigs, going to fucking auditions and shit for movie roles and whatever. They're hoping, like, waiting on a call and shit, but at the same time, they're almost scared to get it, you know what I mean? They'd rather have that obscurity or relative obscurity as a stand-up, going from gig to gig, you know what I mean? Real fame, that's strenuous, you know? Almost like that, you know, they kind of want that payday against a Manny Pacquiao, but at the same time they would rather like just him retire, I guess, you know. They really want that payday though, let's be real, because they're like that old couple, man, just hanging around, you know, like still in the club and shit. I don't know if that's a thing, like I'm on my Teddy Atlas shit right now. Like fucking Sean Paul and Keith Thurman, it's all about just like getting them married, really, and fucking Errol Spence being the wedding crasher. Hey, why do they want that Floyd and Manny payday, you know what I mean? Why does Keith say he's not afraid to let that all go, you know? Because there's no fucking shame in losing to a guy like Manny or Floyd. They're legends, you know, fighting legends and all that stuff, you know. Danny Garcia Like, he can't give an interview, man, without fucking trying to insinuate himself into the fight. I don't know why. He couldn't help but talk about himself. Like, I should have gotten this fight. I want the winner, blah, blah, blah. He couldn't even make a prediction without, like, somehow switching that shit up to him. All of these dudes, man, they want these paydays and shit against these old dudes. Want to beat the legend, make a payday. Or lose to a legend, make a payday, you know? It's whatever. They're not really competing anymore, man. Getting paid way too much. We're telling people way too much about brain damage and fight smart. Yeah, this is gonna blah blah. Shut the fuck up. You're gonna get brain damage anyway, you know? Regardless if you fight smart or not, man. Getting hit to the head way too much. That shit not supposed to happen, man. There's a reason I'm sitting here on the couch. This shit is serious, you know? You serious? I don't know. Too much thinking is going on, you know? Business, you gotta understand the politics and all that craziness. Fans want to be all in on the politics because the fighters are also, you know what I mean? And it's that athletes thing, you know? Like, athletes are getting better and fans are getting worse. That's what they want to put out there. But that's all bullshit. Let's be real, man. Athletes aren't getting better. Not in this sport. Not in a sport that tries. The sport tries to keep the secrets in the gym. And that goes to fans, man. They don't want us to know. They don't want us to know what we're paying for, if we're paying for it. They don't want us to know what we're clicking on, you know what I mean? They want us to know just these dudes are the best fighters in the world because they have the world champion moniker, man. Paulie Malignaggi has a world champion moniker. You know? Nobody's telling us really about the sweet science. We gotta figure it out. We as fans gotta figure it out for ourselves. And even if you're a casual fan, man, credit to you. You know, props to you. If you're a hardcore fan, power to you, bro. You know, because nobody's helping you. You gotta really search for these dudes. Like, we see NBA and these dudes are in the inside NBA and breaking down plays and breaking down whatever. You know what I mean? They make it a point to fucking educate the fan, man. That's not happening in boxing. So even being a boxing fan, you should get credit for that because nobody's making that shit easy for us. We're pampered as a motherfucker, and at the same time they're trying to keep us like disillusioned, like not understanding where or what's happening. You see that a lot, man. Why does the mainstream, like, they're so clueless and we call them casuals and all that shit, but the sport, man, makes it a point to keep us in the dark. I mean, HBO tried a little bit, but it's all about money, man. If these big money fights are in play, these networks are gonna spend some money to get some specials and whatever on air, you know what I mean? And a breakdown by Virgil Hunter and Tim Bradley of the Pacquiao Mayweather fight, it's gonna happen, you know what I mean? We're gonna see like legends get put together like they did then, you know, asking them questions, which would really, I think, attract fans and also like education about the history of fighting, man. We don't get that, man. Nobody, like, that's what I'm saying, man. Nobody fucking knows in a gym, like in that fucking Mayweather gym, nobody knows Pernell Whitaker or watches that motherfucker, man. And I'm sorry to say it like that, but it's a shame that Pernell Whitaker isn't known like fucking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is, like Will Chamberlain is, like Michael Jordan is, you know what I mean? Like Larry Bird is, man. Magic Johnson. That's fucked up, man. That Muhammad Ali is the only boxer that really got his shine, whether he was really aware enough to enjoy it to the fullest extent, you know what I mean? He had his time. There isn't any time that's guaranteed, so you can't really be too sad about anything, and that's what I'm coming to that conclusion, you know what I mean? That's why I'm fucking not really too broken up about fucking Pernell Whitaker passing away, because first of all, I don't know the guy. The older you get, man, the more you don't get as sentimental, especially about things that don't necessarily affect you personally. And even that, man, overrated. This is getting dark as a motherfucker, but hey, listen, Pacquiao just beat Thurman. All these other dudes, man, they must feel down. I hope they are. I hope they understand, man, that what they are telling themselves, you know, that there are these machines working in the dark gyms. Somehow there's fucking fog in the gym, you know. Nobody's supposed to see the age-old tricks of the trade, you know. You know, let's just wait until like Freddie Roach and all, let's say the older trainers that are around still. Let's wait until they die and then just think like, oh, what if we did specials of Freddie Roach breaking down fights or anyone else, man. you know what I mean? That has some real knowledge to impart. And not even these fucking crazy legends. Like, give a guy like this guy, that guy on True School Sports, Louis something, I think. He's a trainer. And I believe there are a lot of videos on him like talking about different styles, talking about like a jolting jab, I think about like the stab jab, talking about bare knuckle fighters, how they used to hold their hands and the way they used the jab, like in a stabbing motion, trying to slice the opponents up. I think that type of shit could actually be useful for dudes that fight in BKB, you know? Actually take a little bit of that old school shit that John L. Sullivan and them tried to do back in the day, you know? That's why he says also that you see a lot of these old school fighters on pictures have that goofy type of look to them when they're holding their fists up, but it's meant to be like that, you know? They were more so slicing than really punching, you know, because also the gloves were a lot smaller back then, you know? Lighter. For example, man, he should get a show. Talk about shit, break down fights. Who gives a fuck if the guy has a name? They're trying to make fucking stars out of trainers. Get a storyline going, man. Have these women announcers in there, man, talking all lovey-dovey to the fighters in press conferences. They're retarded at PBC, man, or whatever, or Fox, or whatever. Like, put a dude in there, man. Even a guy like Jim Gray that's gonna annoy the fighters, irritate them, get some heat going, man. Why do I have to tell you that? Put a woman in there with like a little baby belly, you know, as if she's trying to lose the baby pounds, giving that maternal feel on the stage, you know. Baby talking, Keith and Manny up there, you know what I mean? I'm all for like diversity and everything, but it all has its place. And I don't know if boxing is the place for that motherly feminine energy out there, you know. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway, I'm saying these dudes are all sad right now. They hoped either to get the payday, lose the fight, or win the fight against an old legend or whatever. Actually, Errol Spence is from a mentality perspective, is the most throwback of these fighters, because he's actually calling all these dudes out besides Terence Crawford. I don't know what to think, you know what I mean? And also, I don't like him like pampering Keith Thurman in the way he addresses him and shit, you know? Like all that trash talk they're trying to do, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, and Sean Porter, it's so buddy shit, you know, as if they came up in the same class or something and now trying to sell us something. Like, get the fuck out of here. I don't like you being all friends, you know. First of all, fuck you, you know. And I think actually Errol Spence is trying his best to step out of that shit, you know. But he's the younger dude, the younger brother type of thing, you know. He has been seen by TMZ hanging out with Adrian Broner in public and shit, getting drunk, so yeah. Take a step back, you know? Lean back. Chill. That type of thing. You can punch hard as much as you want. People are giving Sean Porter actually like shit for fighting the way he fought against Ugas, man. But the motherfucker is actually pretty multidimensional. If you think about it, he was able to win the fight boxing. His brawling style didn't even come into play. And actually, if he uses that brawling style, we've seen him shut offensive fighters, shut explosive fighters completely down, shut boxing completely down with that style, you know? That shit is something to deal with, you know what I mean? We're gonna see Relentless going against Relentless. Who's gonna be more relentless? And I've seen a little bit of that, I wanna be a boxer now, I wanna show my intelligence and all that stuff by Errol Spence, you know? Going against a featherweight, you're gonna box out there? And I've seen you trying to go at him and shit. You didn't necessarily get what you wanted, right? And then you thought about it. Let's play it cool, you know? Let's box him. Put a jab on him. Tire him out. Ramp up the engine. Chill a little. Ramp up the engine. Chill a little. See if he folds. Not go all out, you know what I mean? You never know. Let's be smart out there. So if that comes into play, right? And you know, I'm gonna just say, man, like Porter did a similar thing against Ugas. He was playing it safe out there. Shit almost lost him the fight though. He's obviously rethinking that shit, and especially going against Spence. If Sean Porter, man, lets any of that friendship and shit and all that, like these youngins, man, they trying to box too much, you know what I mean? And I give credit to Keith Thurman for actually fucking forcing the fight, man. Trying to be flat-footed, actually stepping out of his comfort zone, you know? Give a little. Take that nosebleed, you know what I mean? Shell up, absorb, you know? I gotta give him credit for that shit. And I've seen that in the Sean Porter fight, that he had that shit in him. Never said that the shit would look pretty or whatever, but it was, eventually it was effective. So I give him credit for that shit, but a lot of these dudes, man, they're trying to play it safe, they're trying to box, like, Terence Crawford against Victor Postol, you know, I see you, trying to play it safe. Take the chances with the judges, this type of shit. We're gonna see, man. And actually like, there were chances for Keith Thurman to stop Manny Pacquiao if he had a bit more stick-to-itiveness. And I don't want to like be too hard on him. He obviously also had to weather a lot to get to that point where Manny was running on empty, basically, and started getting hit with punches. And to Keith's credit, man, his punches, man, they sound the same from 1 till 12, you know? And that shit takes energy, and he was also absorbing punishment, so can't be too mad at him, you know what I mean? He had a bad start. That really is what kind of bit him in the ass, but at the same time, he has to fight hard, man. Prime welterweight, prime champ, has to fight that hard to compete against a 40-year-old, like past his prime. Like, Manny's past his prime, man. It's a black eye for this generation's welterweights, and really for this generation in general. All these dudes, man, that came up at the same time, boxing right now, looking for the smart move to make in their career. Look at this shit, bro. Not everybody's Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather is like a evil genius or some type of shit. He's a creation, man. He's like a testitute baby. That type of shit, man. You know, jumping rope in the womb. Anyway, man. Like, I want to be like Floyd. I want to be like Floyd. Like, go back further, man. Boxing been around for a while. There's film out there, man. You don't have to be, what's the guy's name? Fuck. A young Mike Tyson with all the film in his fucking basement or whatever where he was watching that shit, man. 8mm. It's on YouTube. Watch some shit. I don't know, man. PBC and Fox, man. Put some fucking money and effort into this shit. Like, buy some footage from ESPN, man, and get the shit going, man. Educate the fans about the sport. Get these participants and fighters actually in there, man, and show, like, because they're scared. Is it by accident that all these fighters sound like a little bit dumb or uneducated on the sport they're actually participating in, you know? Can't really form a sentence, convey it to the viewer, and I don't think that's a linguistic issue. I think these dudes actually don't know. And we are in a generation where a fan like me can sit at home and actually sit and listen to a fighter's interview or whatever, talk about the fight, talk about the prediction, talk about whatever outcome, talk all uppity about how they do it and we don't. And me sitting here on the couch completely dismissing that fighter and saying, nah, fuck off, man. I don't believe you, I believe me. You know what I mean? I believe what I see when I watch that film. Do you watch film? Like, these fighters don't know shit, man. Oh, brilliant head movement, Pernell Whitaker, and shut up. Never watched them. Alright? Pernell Whitaker was a bad man. Watch his fight against Paulie Diaz. I believe there was in Virginia actually also. And he put a beat down on that dude, man. And actually, that was competitive early. And that guy actually fought kind of like a Keith Thurman. Like all mobility reliant with power punching, you know? But a little unrefined and that shit kind of. Like, hey, Pernell wasn't letting that dude just style on him, you know what I mean? That dude started a little too hard for Pernell, man. So he had to turn that shit around on him. Put on the pressure cooker. I'm out, man. I'm out. I'm talking here. Talking too much. All these dudes are gonna be mad. They're gonna be mad. Let me tell you. They're gonna be disillusioned, man. They're gonna be a little, oh, I don't know, man. Should I retire now or I don't want to catch an L? Like, all dudes fucking us up. Fuck, even if they're on PEDs, man. These dudes are beating on us. More activity than us. Sidestepping us? Wow. Like Floyd said, man, fuck this shit, man. These niggas ain't beating me. I'm retiring. You know? You ain't good enough to step into the ring with me, you know? Think about that. He said, nah, I'm good. Manny's just that type of dude, man. He says, like, I'm good. Like I said, man, these niggas are like Sean Porter. I don't know why he's still fighting. God knows why he's still fighting. Shit like that, they will say. How about you think about it, man, at home, before you become a fucking TV host, you know what I mean? How about you think a little bit about the subjects you're gonna talk about? He does it because he's better than you. He's cut from a different cloth. He's still doing it at a higher level than you. It's not the highest level he's ever been able to produce, but it's enough for you. That's a good enough reason. Making that money is a good enough reason. Schooling fools? Actually, fools. Like, I'm not gonna overdo it, but at the same time, man, play it safe. Keep playing it safe, you bums. Bum-ass generation. See where it takes you. Like I said, man, incidentally putting themselves into the record books just by being there. They're just there. So I guess they're the best, you know, because they're there. But let's be real, man. Like, motherfuckers nowadays, they really think like we think back to Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Ali, fucking Joe Frazier. Like, Joe Frazier, they think of like as a dude that loses to Muhammad Ali. Joe Frazier, man, eats people alive today. Do you understand that? Do you understand that this man is not taking a step backwards? And he doesn't want to, and he's fighting you with one eye, and he's putting left hooks on you that are retarded. You know what I mean? And you're not really hitting him. You're not hitting him that much. Okay? You know why Muhammad Ali was hitting him? Because he's the greatest. Do you ever think you're gonna see the greatest? No, you're not. On film, maybe. But you're too good for that, man. You know? You'd rather watch Floyd, man, tap the bag. Or better yet, watch Adrian Broner tap the bag. You know? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm over it, man. I'm over it. Peace out.